Okay, so I have a few topics that I've been asked to touch upon. Let's go back to the beginning. Where was I before I was born? I'll let you ponder that for a little while. The next item is how many times have you been incarnated on a planet? Okay, have you got a number? Where were you before you were involved with pick something, anything? Where were you before you were involved with pick something, anything, anything? Okay. So the whole rarely heard from talk is what is going here? So you can't really understand what the sentence is or the question is. What does it mean? There's not enough context in order to understand my question. Immediately, you're going to want, I don't really know what you're getting at. You have to have a lot of context in order to get a good answer to a question. It's just the way it is. There are too many fields of endeavor that humans can pursue for you to have a completely blank slate. And what does this mean, this blank slate? You must have a context to narrow the field down. If you want something, you might get something, but you're going to be, it's not relevant to me. Why? Well, I don't know, whatever they're talking about, it's just not relevant. It doesn't resonate with me because you didn't put something in. If you don't put something in to your question, context, what's the context? It's me. I'm the context. You're a spot of awareness. You are a spot of awareness. Are you pretending that you are your body? And that's the context. Well, my body is here. I'm in a male body. It's middle-aged, and currently it's located in North America. That's my context. It wears a hat. It's way too generic to get anything of value because you're just like, I don't know, 200 million other males in North America. You must be far more specific in your context if you want to get a good answer. The next answer is your world is not as you think it is. Your world is as it was presented to you when you were a child. And then let's call it, evolved from there. But when you were a spot of awareness and you were an infant child, You didn't even know you were an infant child. You didn't know anything. I suppose, if you look at a child today, an infant, they seem to know when they're wet. They seem to know when they're hungry. They seem to know when they've got gas and need to be burped. They seem to know when they're sleepy tired because they close their eyes and they go to sleep. They know when they're unhappy because they cry. But they don't even know that they're an infant human. And then it all evolved from there. I can't answer any questions based upon this is a blank slate. What does it mean? If you want a good answer to what's going on with you, go down to your neighborhood shopping mall. Walk through the parking lot. Look at each individual car as you pass by. Look at the license plates and look at the make and model of each vehicle. Look at the colors. Look at the people in the parking lot. What are they wearing? What they're wearing, what does it remind you of? Who do they look like, the people that you've seen before in this life? Walk into the mall. Look at people's clothing. Look at their hats and their t-shirts. What did they say? Walk down the mall. If you feel like your feet want to go into a store, go into a store. Point your finger and follow. Just keep walking and point your finger and just follow where your finger's pointing and see where it takes you. Go in and out, go in and out. Pay close attention to everything. And then when you're done doing your mall tour, walk back to your car, get in your car with no particular destination in mind. Back out of your parking spot, drive out of the parking lot, and see if you feel like you need to go left or right or straight. And do that for a while. And pay attention to the street signs and the cars and the license plates. And pay attention to what's playing on, if you got the radio on, what's playing on the radio when you're driving by and you see something that you think might be significant. Like, oh, that's an interesting sign. And there's some words on the radio at that time. These are all messages from the universe for you. You got to pay attention. What I do is at the end of the day, I get into bed, I close my eyes, turn out the light of the bedside table, and then I see what comes back to me from the day. My spirit guides and I will look to see what I see in my mind's eye. What do we get? Most of the time, we do get things. Are they significant? Rarely. Rarely. I mean, there's some, okay, well, that was kind of a deja vu, or, it's almost a synchronicity. It's not like happening exact time, but I saw this yesterday and then this repeated today. So you look for patterns. 2 days ago, I was in a building and I saw a pill bug on the floor. That's a little bug that if you touch it, it rolls up into a little round circle. So we remembered that, my spirit guides and I. We remembered that. And last night we looked up the symbolism of pill bugs because everything has a symbolism. It said, I need to have more fun. It also said, a pill bug rolls up into a ball to protect itself. So know how to roll up into a ball if you feel like you're under attack. That's what you do. That's what you do. And the other thing I want to remind you of is something that you did when you were maybe 7 years old. No, maybe let's go back to 4 years old, when you were playing dolls. If you're a boy, maybe you had GI Joe. Maybe you didn't have GI Joes. I don't know. I did when I was a boy. There was GI Joes for guys, and there were Barbie dolls for girls. I don't know what you had. Maybe you had a teddy bear. But when you're about 4 years old and you're playing with your friends and you've got your teddy bear in your hand, you, if this is the teddy bear here, you basically give the personality of the teddy bear. In other words, hi, I'm Joe Teddy Bear, and my name is Pinky. Right? And that's how you play G.I. Joe, and that's how you play Barbies. You give each of those dolls a personality. That is basic shamanism, believe it or not. A 4-year-old does it. So if you want to learn what other, you'll call them objects in your world, are seeing, remember what you did when you were 4 years old. So this is a cup of tea. Cup of tea. This cup of tea is saying, I am interested in yellow brick roads. That's all. That's how you do it. Pick up an object and see what comes to mind for you, as if the cup of tea had a personality. Drive by a windmill. The windmill is saying, and see what comes out of your mouth. Maybe nothing comes out of your mouth. But maybe you get something and you go, that's really weird. I never would have thought of that. No, you didn't. You were being a shaman, and that windmill might as well be a real being because it said something to you, and you can do that all day long. This hat says to me, I'm interested in Gary McLaughlin. For me, Gary McLaughlin was somebody I went to high school with who is now dead. So this hat is interested in dead people. It wasn't going on in my head. I just started talking. This hat thinks, and see what the words are. So if you want to know, from my friend Royden, whatever the Buddhist masters are that you're trying to get in touch with, if you've got a golden Buddha statue, pick it up. Pick it up in your hand and say, this golden Buddha is saying this, and see what comes out of your mouth. And that will be your message from the golden Buddhas. In other words, be a shaman with whatever you have around you. These objects that are around you, pretend that they're real beings. My spirit guide, Jacob B. Ing, says they are actual beings. And, this one doesn't have a mouth, so it can't talk to you using a mouth. But if you do what you did when you're 4 years old and pretend it was a Barbie doll, it'll talk. You will create a personality for it, and it will talk. That is basic shamanism, and that is how to get more messages from the universe, because where else is it coming from? Your mind is basically an antenna for the universe. It picks up on all kinds of things, so use it. See what you get when you go out. Does a plane fly over? What kind of plane is it? I've got a free app, and I turn it on sometimes, and it tells me what the plane is that just flew over top of me. Flight Radar 24. So if a plane flies over and I'm curious, I turn on my expensive data on my mobile data on my smartphone, and I fire up that little app, and I look to see what the plane is, where it was going, and maybe where it came from. It'll tell me how high up it is. It'll tell me the type of plane it is. It just goes into my little file of things that I observed that day. If you want to know, some people say that what you see is a reflection of what you are inside. So, is it true? Not for me. It's not for me. But some people say that. Greg Braden, the spiritual teacher, calls these sacred Essene mirrors. So if you're having an interaction with somebody, they're reflecting you. Sometimes I do, on purpose, do this sacred Essene mirror for people. I don't think I'm going to do it. For me, it's all automatic, and then I get the intuition that I'm being a mirror for somebody. In other words, if someone is being very mean spirited, I don't choose to. It just happens. For me, I might find that I am acting mean spirited back to them. In other words, I'm mirroring back to them what they're putting out to other people. So maybe they'll take a hint and they'll, at some point it'll dawn on them, when I'm being mean spirited, other people are mean spirited back to me. Maybe I would have a more pleasant life if I was more pleasant to other people. So it's a teaching tool. But as I said, I don't think about it. I just sometimes get an intuition of, why did you snap at that person? You snapped at that person because that person has been snapping at people all week. And it's time for some instant karma for them. And I get it by intuition. It's not me saying I'm going to create some instant karma for someone. Other things that I notice, well, if I go to karaoke, I do listen to see what songs come up. And quite often, there'll be a very rarely heard song, a song I haven't heard for 20 years. And maybe I'll hear it on the radio in the afternoon, and that evening, someone will sing it. Now, maybe they heard it on the radio that day, but sometimes it'll be a bizarre thing. Like, I've got an old collection of 33 and a third records. Okay? I've got records. And maybe I'll pull out an old record from 30 years ago, put it on, play a song, and that rare song will get sung at karaoke. And I never told that person. I never said nothing about the fact that I was listening to that on a record earlier in the day. So there is no way for them to know from me talking about it. It wasn't on the radio. It was on my record. And they sang it. What does it tell you? It tells you we are all connected. We are all connected somehow through consciousness. Some people say, well, you are transmitting that information because that information is in your personal field. And when your personal field interacts with someone else, this information transfers. Could be true. I prefer to think that there is a source, and the source is sending out these signals, and I'm receiving the signal, and so is someone else receiving the signal. It's all coming from source. And source knows what my record collection is. And in fact, source has me choose the record that the source wants me to play. Because human ego thinks that humans choose what they choose. And it's a false teaching. In my opinion, the source chooses things for you and gives you the impression that you choose. And, humans basically confirm it to you when you're young, so you come to believe that's the case, that you are choosing. Everyone is choosing what they're choosing, and that is why there's a lot of blame game that goes on, You made a lot of bad choices, and that's why you ended up in jail. Is it true? Most people think so. Do I think it's true? Yes, mostly it's true. People do make bad decisions. Why would the source have you make bad decisions? Maybe there was a life lesson that you needed. And in order to get your life lesson, you had to go to jail. Seems weird, but people will say, well, if you are a soul and you are incarnating over and over again in this planet and other planets as humanoids or as animals, perhaps, don't know, maybe you're going to have a while as being a earthbound spirit, a ghost. All of these things are experiences that Source wants you to have. Some people say before you incarnate as a human, you have these discussions with Source and you set up a chart of things that you want to experience in your lifetime. And then you incarnate and you experience them. But you have a mind wipe when you incarnate as a human baby, and you don't remember any of the things that you planned when you were doing your charting of your life before you incarnated, and then you get very angry at some of these nasty things like ending up in jail. Is it true? I don't know. But I've heard it many times. Some people got that information from somewhere. It all comes from Source one way or another. Even if it comes out of a book, at some point it came from Source, it got into somebody's head, and then they typed it into a document and got published. So, and the timing of everything, again, it's all the Source that does all the timing of everything. But there's also alternative ways of looking at it. And I always encourage you to think of that thing I just described to you as one reality box, a description of reality. And myself personally, I have an unlimited number of reality boxes. There's an old Islamic proverb that says, a man with only one book is an idiot. So by extension, a person with only one reality box is an idiot. So maybe today you want to be, a corporate bigwig, and tomorrow on your day off, you want to act like you're 14 and go snowboarding. It's a different mindset, a different way of looking at things. But if you're very rigid and you've only got one book that you live with, I mean, if you're a fundamentalist Christian, for example, and you always look at things through the lens of the Old Testament, you're going to be looking at everything as a very judgmental person. This is good, this is evil. You're going to go through Leviticus and you're going to look, oh, well, the gays are all going to hell, but I'm going to hell because I ate some kind of seafood yesterday, and, there was bacon bits in my Caesar salad last week. I mean, if you were going to go through life using the Old Testament as your guide, you are going to have a lot of difficulties, because there's a lot of other people that are going to look at you and say, you're a crazy son of a bitch, and you are the epitome of evil, because you are basically living in a world the book described, Old Testament, is it 3,500 years ago? It's thousands of years old, and that's how you're living your life in 2019, 2020. But that's a reality box, and some people are very stick-to-itive. And that's your book, An Eye for an Eye Justice. That's your update. I'm Harry Weaver. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share and click on the little bell if you would like